You ever wonder what Homeworld's most powerful piece of technology looked like? Well, let's find out. Created by Rebecca Sugar herself and written by Tyler Pepper. Wait, what? Steven Universe Antigravity not only revealed one of Homeworld's oldest secrets, but it also forced the crystal gems into tackling one of their most dangerous adventures yet, in order for them to fix one of Garnet's most recent mistakes.
Oh no!
The comic issue opens with Steven teaching Amethyst how to flip a pancake when it mysteriously starts flipping itself. Ronaldo interrupting the crystal gems' breakfast leads Garnet to slamming the door in his face, before Steven, feeling bad for the guy, would allow him to report on his deeply concerning new findings. Ronaldo explains that he actually managed to make contact with an extraterrestrial force, at a moment when his brother PD was expressing his doubt in researching the supernatural. Similarly to the crystal gems' floating pancake incident at breakfast, Ronaldo and PD in the middle of an argument would also experience the return of the exact same malevolent old force on the planet. This irrefutable evidence led Ronaldo into deciding to rush through the streets of Beat City in hopes of warning all of his fellow residents about the incoming invasion. All of his efforts would prove to be completely in vain though, as the gravity in the surrounding area already began to fluctuate to life-threatening levels. Pearl, believing Ronaldo's story to be a little bit too sensational, kicks him outside of the house despite Steven's wishes. This leads the crystal gems to seeing proof of all of Ronaldo's claims with their very own eyes as he starts to float off into the sky without any warning. Pearl, worried that Steven's floating abilities and lack of experience with adjusting his own gravity would be cancelled out by the incredible power of this malevolent force, locks him inside of the house and decides that it'd be a better idea to let the other gems take care of saving Ronaldo. Steven, unlocking the gems' ability to subtly manipulate their own gravity at the thought of costing Ronaldo his life, dashes outside and orders Garnet to throw him into the sky before it was too late. Within a few seconds of carefully adjusting his flight trajectory, Steven meets up with Ronaldo in the sky and uses the mastery over his new power to drag him back down to Earth. The crystal gems use all of their strength to ensure that Ronaldo didn't begin to float off into space again, but would be met with a huge amount of resistance from their uninvited guest. Worried about the origin of this troublesome new gravity anomaly and its potentially disastrous effects on the other citizens of Beat City, the crystal gems carry Ronaldo back to Beat City Walk Fries. Ronaldo, starting up another heated argument with PD over his abrupt return to the planet, leads Steven to interrupting them in order for him to warn both of the brothers about the dark reality of alien anomalies. The crystal gems, noticing Steven's emotional outburst at Ronaldo and PD inside of Beat City Walk Fries, leads them to sitting down with him in order for the team to gather all of their thoughts before moving any further with the investigation. Steven explains that the combination of learning about the ruthlessness of the other gems on Homeworld and the escalation in stakes of the missions on Earth began to discourage him. With the weight of the world now literally being on the shoulders of the crystal gems, they'd set out to bubble and ground everyone and everything that was directly affected by the gravity anomaly. Steven, being the voice of reason in the midst of chaos, warns all of the citizens of Beat City to stay indoors until his team identified the origin of a new problem and figured out a way to put an end to it. Naturally, Garnet and Pearl, being the most experienced with gem technology, theorized that a powerful Homeworld satellite called a Death Row of Obsolence seemed to be the most likely culprit behind the crisis in Beat City. After a few minutes of playing around with Lion, Steven would manage to convince his furry friend to warp himself along with the other gems to the moon base again in order for them to confirm their troubling hypothesis. The crystal gems, not wasting any time, make their way to the highest point of the moon base and learn that Garnet smashing the control panel in response to Peridot earlier during season 2 was the reason behind the satellite's violent rampage on their home. Pearl explains that these types of ancient Homeworld satellites were distributed to targeted planets during invasions to serve as a means of recovering both organic and non-organic samples from their surfaces. Back in Beat City, Ronaldo, being unable to let go of his belief that he was the cause behind the gravity anomalies, almost leads him to losing his brother forever. With the truth behind the gravity anomalies being revealed, the crystal gems quickly make their way back to the ground floor of the moon base, in order for them to convince Lion to walk them closer to the rogue satellite, but they'd soon come to realize that they were completely on their own from here on out. Garnet becomes the first crystal gem to successfully make the jump from the moon base to the satellite and gives the rest of her team the green light to follow her lead. Amethyst and Pearl decide that it'd be appropriate to form the original giant woman herself, Opal, in order for them to gain the strength needed to accurately throw Steven into Garnet's arms and make the jump across the daunting gap herself. Opal gets absolutely decked in the chin by the malfunctioning satellite, leading to all of the crystal gems taking a short break in the vacuum of outer space in order for them to laugh at the absurdity of their current mission while getting themselves ready to venture deep into the unknown. After the crystal gems reach the satellite's control panel, Garnet, expecting to fix a mistake by using the exact same method that created their predicament in the first place, causes Pearl to step in and take the lead by running a system diagnostic on the ancient computer. Within a few minutes, the crystal gems learned that one of the other reasons why the old system began to recently malfunction, besides Garnet losing a temper at the moon base, was because of the fact that whichever gem was previously inside of the structure left a ridiculous amount of tabs open for thousands of years. Pearl, confident that she could single-handedly take care of this technical issue, leads the other crystal gems into deciding to take advantage of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity of exploring an abandoned homeward satellite. Amethyst, rushing upstairs to claim the satellite's top floor for herself, leads Steven and Garnet to being left with the task of exploring the most dangerous section of the structure. Steven becomes reasonably more concerned after learning that the satellite's warp core was already overheating, but Garnet calms his nerves by reminding him that after Pearl was done with her work on the ground floor, then the core would start to cool down again. The duo, being quite literally at the top of the world, decide to take a moment to reflect on the full extent of the responsibilities that they were both tasked with as being members of the Crystal Gems. Garnet explains that when she first joined the team back during the very beginning of the rebellion, all she cared about was getting strong enough to be able to protect the planet from the homeward invasion. But Rose Quartz made sure to remind her that while working hard was important, feeling good was important too. Amethyst, hoping to share her findings on the top floor with the other crystal gems, excitedly makes her way to Steven and Garnet in order for her to ask them to follow her to the room, but Garnet would ominously decide to stay behind and allow Steven to go on ahead while advising him to be careful. Steven becomes enchanted by the room that is revealed to have been filled with a ton of glowing gem-based tech, but within a matter of seconds, his enchantment would be completely transformed into pure fear when Amethyst accidentally unleashes the structure's deadly pulsar waves on Beat City. Things go from bad to worse when the entire satellite starts to emit a sound disruption so concentrated that it begins to terrifyingly tear every nearby gem-based material to shreds. But before it gets powerful enough to seriously damage any of the crystal gems' gemstones, it shut itself off just as abruptly as it began. This would only be the beginning of the team's problems with a malfunctioning satellite though, because somehow, even with its main server being shattered earlier by the sound disruption, the structure was still fully operational and moments away from roasting everyone in Beat City alive with its boiling hot pulsar waves. PD and Ronaldo, panicking at the thought of actually living up to their family name, leads the brothers to attempting to make contact with the presumed alien invaders one last time. Meanwhile, the crystal gems, trying their best to figure out a way of turning off a satellite for good, would be met with shock when Ronaldo actually makes contact with them from his setup all the way back in Beat City. The crystal gems, desperate to stop the satellite's pulsar waves from activating at full power, decide to do the unthinkable by asking Ronaldo for advice, and he naturally recommends that they should try turning the system off and on again. Surprisingly, this seemingly pointless piece of advice causes Steven to remember that he's actually already seen the satellite's true power switch with Amethyst. Steven gets thrown by one of his teammates for the third time that day and uses his huge amount of momentum along with his new mastery over his own gravity to turn off the satellite's true power source once and for all. At exactly 1 second before Beat City would have been completely decimated by a fully charged pulsar wave. The crystal gems, completing one of their most emotionally exhausting missions yet, make sure to shower Ronaldo in genuine appreciation for assisting them before returning to Beat City themselves on Lion's Back. The citizens of Beat City show their gratitude to the crystal gems for saving their lives and shower Ronaldo in the love and respect that he always dreamed of, before he'd get brought back to reality when his sick father, who missed the entire gravity crisis, begins to greatly doubt the report written in his son's blog.